somewhere in Holland. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It is I, Imperial Dane, with another Propagandacast for you, my wonderful viewers. As a great big thanks for getting me 200 subscribers, I'm doing today a double cast, and this is the second of those Propagandacasts. So I hope you enjoyed it, and I of course hope you enjoyed the previous one, and of course all the ones before that. So let's get down to the actual game then. A 1 versus 1 on industrial riverbed, which as you can see is revolving around a small industrial area centered somewhere around the river area. Downed barges, blown up bridges, barbed wire, Czech hedgehogs, Opel blitzes with all their stuff lying around, and of course some searchlights. So who will be the opponents for today? In the upper west we have Hanoo of the 3rd Armoured Division, ready to take on the Krauts and push them out of Holland. And who do we have to oppose them? Oberstkarl of 10th SS Panzer Division, ready to force back the Yankees. So let's get started, shall we? And of course the particulars of this map is high yield fuel points in the lower and upper corner, victory points falling on a string, central one also near medium munitions points, and otherwise low yield fuel points right near the bases, but otherwise only other fuel points which are high yield in the upper corners. The rest is either strategic or fuel munitions, and of course strategic points are guarding these high yield fuel points. Panzer Grenadiers out from Oberstkarl's 10th SS, while Hanoo's engineers have set up a rifle barracks, not a rifle barracks, whatever, and will probably set about training riflemen. The Kettenkrad has been chosen to support Oberstkarl's forces in their mission to hold back the Americans, not opting for the Schwimmwagen, which is usually what most people go for, since the Kettenkrad, when chosen for Luftwaffe, has the nice and handy ability that it can camouflage itself. The Schwimmwagen can mark targets, which is of dubious usage, I'd say, and the other two abilities, mines and incendiary mines, are also a bit not entirely sure actually. While the Kettenkrad can repair and booby trap points, so less costly abilities with a bit more utility. So that's rather the problem of the Schwimmwagen. Panzer Grenadier forces not going out for the enemy troops. Bit of a mistake. Panzer Grenadiers really should from the starting point go out and search down enemy infantry, since they are having the dual advantage of 1 being Panzer Grenadiers, which means they're some of the toughest infantry, and 2, they are some of the earliest infantry, meaning they have 2 decisive advantages. But they seize territory really slowly, and for some reason Oberstkarl is directing them to seize points instead of trying to engage engineers or riflemen and slow down their territory seizure, while of course applying plenty of pressure. And they are even split up, so if for example the riflemen were to take up this redoubt and fire down on the Panzer Grenadiers, things would look grim, but looks like the 3rd Armoured Division infantrymen are not really used to actually fighting on their own and are not using the heavy cover, but Oberstkarl's Panzer Grenadiers do manage behind some of the tank traps and securing, but wisely pulls back once they are reinforced by further riflemen. Not a bad move, although I still think they should have been working together with the other Panzer Grenadier team for maximum efficiency and have been hunting down engineers. Further Panzer Grenadiers are hitting the field, allowing for now 4 Panzer Grenadier teams versus 2 of Hanoo, and he is blobbing them around his fuel point and has stopped moving them. Not entirely good, not entirely efficient either. At least if you're going to have your troops sticking around the same point, at least send 1 into cover in preparation for counterattacks. If that is what you're suspecting will happen, do not let them hang out in the open, for example here, but instead you could in this case have them behind this wrecked car. Panzer Grenadiers moving in, realizing this bridge is not a good place to fight since it's open cover. They pull back, only to regroup with further Panzer Grenadiers and move in again. Perhaps not the best move, but they do catch these riflemen who are seizing territory while under fire. Again, good note, If you're under heavy fire, do not seize territory, pull back and for example take cover, which is not what Hanoo is doing, and his riflemen will be suffering heavily from this, probably losing a team. Yes, indeed, the riflemen slaughtered in cold blood, and now further Panzer Grenadiers are moving in. One team down to 2 men, but the rest are in perfect condition, or at least near perfect. Further riflemen have arrived, and are probably more to replace that lost team, but certainly not looking good for the Americans, and Oberstkarl does for the moment seem to have the advantage, although again he might want to split up at least in smaller squads of 2 teams, and for example hunt down these riflemen, or at least try and be aware of such matters. Kettenkraut moving up to the north since there are no Americans to defend it. Good move, good move. The American is forcing his troops out, of course. Riflemen dashing away, looking to catch these elite Panzer Grenadiers on the wrong footing.
The enemy is attacking a petrol depot.
Of course, these Panzer Grenadiers are from a reconnaissance unit, which does not mean that they necessarily were any worse than regular Panzer Grenadiers, just that they were trained a bit for different purposes, a bit more aggressive, a bit more risk-taking, and a bit more reckless, but nonetheless deadly, and of course still veteran Panzer Grenadiers, as Panzer Grenadiers were some of the best troops in the wehrmacht, and were certainly some of the most aggressively trained, which of course meant they were even more deadly when they were of the SS kind. Oberstkarl spotting the riflemen to the south and amassing a large Panzer Grenadier force to move southwards. Gewehr 43 is being handed out, and looks like this Kettenkraut will be caught. Oh dearie me, will this light tractor make it away? And yes indeed, the Kettenkraut was in fact meant as a light artillery tractor, first designed to be used in airborne insertions like the Crete 1, and so pull the Fallschirmjägers light artillery units. But after that failed, of course it was regularly used for other towing purposes, and also used in airports to tow out planes. Certainly fun bin. And there we have it, the infantry half-track. Leichter Schützenpanzerwagen reconnaissance variant of the half-track. Although, of course, if non-regular variants, these would be given to Panzer Grenadier units. Moving in without any actual Panzer Grenadiers a bit off, and I'd certainly not recommend doing so. Half-tracks generally should work together with Panzer Grenadiers, and looks like this Kettenkraut will go down. Or not, apparently this is the world's most luckiest Kettenkraut, making it out of there alive. Infantry half-track opening fire, Panzer Grenadiers not staying in tandem, not staying in support, or at least moving into the half-track to at least be able to keep up with it. Half-track apparently figuring it's an armored car, trying to move close to the riflemen. Really not a good idea. Good thing with infantry half-track to use them is to keep infantry in front of them, and then use the half-track to support them while the Panzer Grenadiers are supported and also acting as a screen, thus creating a sort of Panzer Grenadier tactical movement. At least that's what I like to think of it as. And of course now the half-track moves in, exposing itself to a lot of fire, it not being really meant to sustain repeated rifle fire. Still too close. It does suppress the riflemen, but it's taking too much damage, and oh dearie me, there it goes. Rather expensive loss. Panzer Grenadiers are now themselves in a lot of trouble and really need to pull back. Will Oberstkarl realize this and pull back his precious Panzer Grenadiers, or will they be lost as well? Oh dearie me. One Panzer Grenadier out in the open for himself, dashing his way past the rifleman. Will he survive? Will he make it back to the headquarters? And yes indeed, and looks like engineers have been seizing this central victory point in the meanwhile. Looks like Oberstkarl's Panzer Grenadiers are a bit spread out. Again, you really should try to focus and keep them close, keep them to support each other and leapfrog through cover. Panzer Grenadiers moving northwards, going to deal with these engineers. A second team is moving towards the north, able to deal with the remnants of this rifleman team, or not. In fact, looks like this Panzer Grenadier team might be cut down completely. Only one man left, and will he die? Also making out a barely, although leaving his comrades wounded, and Panzer Elite troops have no way of recovering the wounded, most tragically meaning you'll always feel a bit of guilt if you're that type of commander when you leave them wounded behind. Of course, there's a bit of trouble in giving them, since most teams are only 3-man teams, so the only way to make it viable, I suppose, would have to make such a unit like an ambulance or otherwise available only once you upgraded the 4-man Panzer Grenadier teams, I suppose. Or it could have been a sort of upgrade to a garrison building, setting up a field hospital. Just a thought. Anyways, riflemen advancing on this Panzer Grenadier team, trying to seize this central victory point once more for the fatherland. Second team moving up to possibly support them. Panzer Grenadiers staying out in the open, taking out one rifleman who is apparently shot in the gut, writhing in pain on the bridge. Panzer Grenadiers moving towards the cover. Riflemen taking heavy fire, heavy losses, already greatly wounded. Further riflemen down, and we see the anti-tank half-track moving in. And just as this arrives on the battlefield, we see the first M8 armored car dashing ahead, ready to support the infantry and spearhead any attacks on them. Dashing ahead, its armored skirts upgraded, moving right into the midst of the Panzer Grenadiers. Perhaps not the best move, certainly without rifleman support, and quickly immobilized by this anti-tank half-track, which does pull back, but not enough. Not enough. I think will still be a target, or will it? Yes, indeed, still being able to be fired upon by this M8, but now out in safe distance. I suspect 50 cal heavy machine gun up. No, still in range actually. Beginning to open fire on the Panzer Grenadiers. Panzer Grenadiers really have no need to be there, since they can't actually damage it. Looks like this armored car will be out in a few shots, although now a second M8 armored car is moving ahead. Brewed up armored car lying on the road. Second one moving in. Panzer Grenadiers firing up from the cover. M8 moving in on the anti-tank half-track and will probably knock it out. Yes, no. Yes, indeed. Out of control, crashing into this security post. Bashing away one of these security... I don't know what they're called, actually. Panzer Grenadiers really should get out. There's nothing they can do against the Greyhound with its armored skirts and 37mm gun. Will there be another anti-tank half-track? Yes, indeed. And let's see what Hanoo is up to with his 3rd Infantry Division. Apparently calling upon Rangers to lead the way with their bazookas and Thompson submachine guns. In the south we see these engineers a bit isolated under fire from this mortar half-track. Reports of the Axis winning the battle are clinging in from the announcer. We see the M8 has moved in, but is deeply wounded, perhaps hoping to rush in. Trouble is, flak feelings can, in fact, at least the base types can do some damage to light armored cars. So only one advantage, and we see another anti-tank half-track, and of course these Panzer Grenadiers equipped with the Panzer Schreckman. We see the engineers are indeed leading the way, forcing these Panzer Grenadiers to retreat. Will they be getting the Thompson submachine gun? Apparently not enough munitions for starters, and not in American territory, preventing supplying, and these riflemen are not doing anything. Might want to work on that. Although, just as I casually mention it, he of course gets to work. Anti-tank half-track dashing in and running right into the Rangers. Really should work to keep your half-tracks behind infantry. They are not independent units, they are much too light, and they lack any sort of turret to actually be viable in such a situation. So, good rule of thumb, when you have half-tracks, move them in with what they're supposed to work with, Panzer Grenadiers. That should at least make things a bit easier. Panzer Grenadiers having seized upon the cover and firing upon these riflemen out.